That time of the year gets a little dramatic, let's just say. We have 12 bills on file, only 4 of which are eligible for a do-pass motion. The remaining bills are suspense items. It should be a relatively quick hearing today, but I'd like to still remind the audience and members that testimony should be limited to the fiscal aspects of the bill. As you know, they have had a robust debate in policy committees, some of them in multiple policy committees. So, Sergeants, would you please call some of the absent members? Do pass bill recommendations today. We have Pavley, Block, Monning, and suspense bills with presentation. We have Senator Anderson, Jackson, and Wajkowski. We see Senator Block here. And Pavley, let's see who's first. Oh, Senator Pavley, you're up first. And while she comes up, we are going to establish a quorum. Secretary, please call the roll.
Laura?
Here.
Laura here. Bates? Here. Bates here. Bell? Hill? Here. Hill here. Leyva? Here. Leyva here. Mendoza? Nielsen? Nielsen here.
Thank you. Senator Pavley, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This bill was designed to track the recommendations that are coming out of a stakeholder process through the governor's office and the administration. The bill is admittedly a work in progress, and future amendments will be the results of what the stakeholders come up with. First of all, may I say I agree with the staff comment that the department should not certify county mine inspectors, and that provision will be changed as the stakeholder process continues and this bill continues. That's the comments listed in page 3 in the analysis. Regarding fiscal issues, I already removed the provision that caused fiscal cost pressures, which would have allowed counties to opt out of serving as lead agency for mines. Those are gone. So what we're focusing on is a handful of really, I think, modest reforms that need to be done. I chaired the Natural Resources and Water Committee. This has been brought to my attention, and so we've stepped back and working with the governor's office and the administration. So it's making sure that there's annual inspections, making sure there's adequate assurances that when you undertake reclamation, you can complete that process, and making sure more operators have reclamation plans that actually meet modern standards. Almost half of all the reclamation plans are very outdated. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Witnesses in support of the measure.
Bill Alio for the Environmental Working Group. This is an important bill to keep moving. We agree there's no real cost to the state. There may be some of the counties, but that's where the action is in this matter. The SMARA is mostly administered by the local governments, so we ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Andrew Grinberg, Clean Water Action, in support.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support of the measure. Witnesses in opposition. If your bill's up, you should move to the front of the room. Just a word of advice.
Chair and members, Adam Harper, California Construction and Industrial Materials Association. The California Construction and Industrial Materials operators are concerned that SB 209 remains essentially a spot bill with no realistic cost estimates. It proposes to make changes in an area of law critical to the success of meeting our state's infrastructure needs, but has not yet defined what changes it would make. As a result, we are opposed to SB 209. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition of the measure. Comments or questions from the committee? I'm sorry, Finance.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez
Welcome.
with the Department of Finance. Thank you, and I don't have a file on this one.
No file from Finance. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Senator Pavley, I just want to say, I understand that this bill is a work in progress, and the measure will likely change as the working group continues to make progress on this issue. As we continue to have these discussions, I'd like to be kept informed.
I would be glad to do that.
As you know, I authored SB 447 to correct some of the ambiguity in the laws pertaining to mine operators. And I want to make sure that the conversations that are being had doesn't undermine the work that we've done from my bill last year. And so I'll support it today and just want to make sure I'm kept in the loop.
Absolutely.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion by Senator Leyva. Secretary, call the roll.
The motion is do pass to the Senate floor. Laura?
Aye.
Laura, aye. Bates? No. Bates, no. Bell? Hill? Aye. Hill, aye. Leyva? Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Mendoza, aye. Nielsen? Nielsen, no.
Thank you.
On call, Senator Pavley. Thank you. So we have Senator Block. Members, this is SB 538 by Senator Block.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Naturopathic doctors are primary care doctors who've attended 4-year postgraduate accredited naturopathic medical schools. Their training includes a minimum of 1,500 hours, including clinical working experience with patients. Tens of thousands of Californians already see naturopathic doctors as their primary care physicians. What we want to do here is add a very small addition to the scope of practice so that when someone comes into a naturopathic doctor's office and needs a prescription for cough medicine or something similar to that, it can be done without referring them to a physician, a referral that might take 4 or 5 weeks to get. I know we're talking just about the fiscal aspects here, so let me move quickly to that. There's never been a medical malpractice claim against a naturopathic doctor filed in California. Naturopathic doctors already perform to the scope we're asking for safely in 13 other states. And the only cost they found in these other states, the only cost of this additional scope of practice is for minor enforcement of the Naturopathic Medical Committee, which is very minimal. As I said, there's never been a malpractice claim filed against a naturopathic doctor in California. And by the way, those costs are funded, the Naturopathic Medical Committee, which has 2 MDs on it, including currently one, a Harvard-trained MD. The Naturopathic Medical Committee is funded by licensing fees that naturopaths pay, not by state general fund. So in conclusion, SB 538 ensures that patients seeking primary care from a naturopathic doctor can receive appropriate care without the added time, cost, and health risk of finding another physician for a routine prescription or procedure. It keeps patients out of costly emergency rooms and helps California reduce the primary care shortage. The bill is sponsored by the California Naturopathic Doctors Association and supported by AARP because they know how strong the need is for primary care providers, as well as several other organizations. The bill did pass out of policy committee. The chair of that committee is here. And with me here to testify, we have Jennifer Barr, who's a naturopathic doctor, and a few other people here to answer questions. There are only one testimony.
Witnesses in support.
Thank you, Senator Lara. My name is Dr. Jennifer Barr. I'm the Vice President and Legislative Chair for the California Naturopathic Doctors Association. SB 538 will allow the scope of practice for licensed naturopathic doctors to reflect our training and legal status as primary care doctors here in California. It will also follow national precedents for our scope. All naturopathic doctors are trained beyond the level of what this bill calls for regarding pharmacology and minor procedures. Passage of this bill will save money for Californians by increasing access to care, reducing duplication of costs, and improving the likelihood of insurance inclusion. It will add no cost to the state. Naturopathic doctors can independently diagnose and treat all health conditions under current law. SB 538 will not require any new regulations or increased oversight from the Naturopathic Medicine Committee or any other regulatory board. Any cost to the state will be minor and absorbable by the committee. In fact, improvements of this scope will increase income to the NMC, which is funded entirely by licensing fees, and to the state through increases in business and sales taxes. Passage of this bill will remove the primary barrier to growth of the profession in California. It is in the interest of increasing access to safe, cost-effective, integrative primary care and reducing costs for our fellow Californians that I respectfully request your aye vote for this bill.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Catherine Austin Scott here for the California Naturopathic Doctors Association if you have questions.
Rebecca Mitchell, Naturopathic Medicine Committee, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support. Please come forward.
Thank you. Dr. Angela Agrios, immediate past president of the California Naturopathic Doctors Association, in practice for 8 years.
Jerry Gonzalez with AARP, 3 million members in support.
Additional witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition, please come forward.
You stay here.
Thank you. Jody Hicks, representing the California Academy of Family Physicians in opposition to this bill. And we are opposed to the policy of the bill, but I also want to talk about the fiscal impacts because we do believe it's going to be costly for the healthcare system as a whole. This bill does three things generally. It allows for them to order more tests, invasive, some of them very invasive tests, and also do procedures. So we're talking about biopsies, skin biopsies, MRIs, some of those kind of tests, and then also allows them to prescribe without any physician supervision that they have right now, prescribe Schedule 4 and 5 drugs. So what we believe will end up happening, and we've heard in some of the testimony that one of the goals of the bill is not just to prescribe things like cough medicine, but also to be able to change a physician's prescription when they have a chronic condition such as diabetes or high blood pressure, and they're on long-term chronic condition medications, and they believe that there's different methods, maybe more natural methods, and want to be able to wean them off of those prescriptions. The problem we see with that is there's no requirement in this bill for any kind of consultation with the physician, any kind of communication or any relationship, which the bill requires right now. Supervision not just requires supervision, but it requires that they have a relationship together. So if there is a thought of taking someone off of a prescription that's a long-term chronic condition, there has to be some communication with the physician, and this bill doesn't require that. We'll also say there's a huge difference in education and training between naturopathic doctors and primary care physicians. So there is the 4-year naturopathic medical school, but there's not any residency program that is required for naturopaths right now. 3 years is a basic requirement for a primary care doctor. The residency program for a naturopath is voluntary, and I think by their own testimony, it's about 5 to 10% of patients that do that. And the concern then becomes for procedures, if there's no authority to do that in California today, we don't know how the students in California, not putting aside Washington, because Washington has that scope, but for the California school, what kind of training they're getting right now to be able to do those biopsy procedures. So what we see happening is, specifically if you believe there's a skin problem, and it could be something even as problematic as a skin cancer, and they're doing biopsies and they're not properly trained and they're not getting the right piece of skin or getting the margins, then that tissue becomes useless. And then when they do end up going to a dermatologist, again, because the bill does not require any consultation or relationship, potentially they have to do the test over again, which will be costly, but also it may not be available. They may have just destroyed the tissue that was needed to get that test in the first place. So we are concerned with the education and training, and different than the other scope bills that have come before this committee, this bill does not require any extra training or education in order to do some of this expanded scope. So we think duplication of tests are going to happen. We think that if you're changing a physician's prescription without any consultation, that patient is likely going to end up back at that physician's office. And again, we think that this is all going to be added cost to the health system that's unnecessary. So for those reasons, we're strongly opposed.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. Paul Bauer on behalf of the California Medical Association in opposition to this measure. I don't want to reiterate everything that Ms. Hicks said, but I would like to just underline that at the CMA, we believe that the medical training and residency program that our state's doctors have helps to reduce costs and unnecessary testing and other costs to the system. So just on the cost basis alone, we believe that this bill is a step in the wrong direction. So I just wanted the association to be on record. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition, please come forward.
Hi, Jennifer Simoes with the Medical Board of California. We're opposed for policy reasons and the reasons already stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional witnesses in opposition? Finance.
No file.
Comments or questions from committee members? I'd like to just say a couple things. Do you have a?
Well,
go ahead.
If I could, Mr. Chair, and this did have the policy discussion thoroughly in the Business and Professions Committee, and the conclusion that we came to in looking at the existing experience level, the existing training and education did qualify these naturopathic doctors for the increase in scope. So it didn't seem that that was something that would require additional training. It was within their education already, and the limited amount of increase in scope that they're going to be provided with the greater benefit of access, which I think is something we're all looking for. So,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hill. Additional comments or questions from committee? I just would like to just state that although I wasn't in the policy hearing, I do have some personal issues on just the scope of practice on expanding this scope that I'm personally not comfortable with, but knowing that, you know, the big issue for me is not having a consultation with the physician, but I know I want to, you know, give you that opportunity to continue to work on this measure as it moves to the floor. So I will give you a courtesy vote today, and hopefully we can have further conversations as this bill moves to the floor. With that, I'll entertain a motion by Senator Hill to move the bill. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Laura?
Aye.
Laura, aye. Bates? No. Bates, no. Bell? Hill? Aye. Hill, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mendoza, aye. Nielsen? No. Nielsen, no.
Thank you,
Mr.
Senator.
Chair. Appreciate it.
I see. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll keep that bill on call to allow absent members to add on. Senator Monning. Senator Monning, you have SB 602. It's a due pass recommendation. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, and members. A major earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area or in Southern California could have an even greater impact on our state than Hurricane Katrina had in Louisiana and Mississippi, to the tune of more than $200 billion in structural and economic damage. At the same time, fewer than 11% of California homeowners have earthquake insurance. This is a recipe for economic disaster. SB 602 offers homeowners another way to protect themselves by providing a low-cost financing option to retrofit their homes to reduce the likelihood of severe damage. It has no cost to the state. This bill has no cost to the state. My bill would create a new voluntary mitigation financing tool, the Property Secured Mitigation Program, allowing the California Earthquake Authority to provide 100% financing for residential mitigation projects that meet approved engineering guidelines. The loan would become a lien on the property and allow homeowners to pay for the costs in installments in the form of debt service payments collected through the existing property tax collection mechanisms. The lien would run with the land, staying with the property upon sale, thereby increasing property value. The CEA would make these loans utilizing the existing Earthquake Loss Mitigation Fund, which is funded by returns on CEA investments, which would be replenished as homeowners repay the loans. Again, this fund already exists, and there would be no cost to the state. Increasing mitigation is one way for us to improve our resilience and ability to recover from disaster before the next major earthquake happens. This bill is supported by the CEA, the Insurance Commissioner, the Personal Insurance Federation of California, and the Association of Bay Area Governments. SB 602 passed both the Senate Insurance and Governance and Finance Committees on consent.
Support on both sides.
Thank you. I have with us, if there are any questions, Thomas Welch, who represents CEA this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
No file.
Comments or questions from committee? There's a motion by Senator Leyva. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Laura? Aye. Laura, aye. Bates? Aye. Bates, aye. Bell? Hill? Aye. Hill, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mendoza, aye. Nielsen? Aye. Nielsen, aye.
We'll keep that file item open to allow folks to add on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Senator Anderson, you have SB 624. It's a candidate for suspense. Floor is yours.
SB 624 will ensure that state web pages and other technologies are compatible with assistive technologies is essential for enabling all Californians the ability to interact with their government. Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, prohibits discrimination in any public service program or activity. Additionally, Section 508 was added to the Federal Rehabilitation Act in 1998, requiring federal agencies to make all technologies accessible to persons with disabilities. SB 105, Burton, was chaptered into statute in 2002. It extended these same standards to the California state government. Despite existing obligations to follow these laws, state agencies are failing to provide an acceptable level of accessibility. An automated review of 360 state agency homepages showed that 84% appear to have at least two Section 508 compliance issues that would restrict access for users with disabilities. SB 624 will establish a dedicated Office of Accessibility Technology in the Department of Technology at the state agency responsible for achieving and maintaining Section 508 compliance. Assigning a responsible entity will ensure that accessibility is built into our state technology at every step of the process. Achieving compliance upfront reduces costs for taxpayers by preventing the need for expensive retrofitting following products that have been completed, and most importantly, it will avoid costly lawsuits when people are denied access. With me today, I have many witnesses, and they're eager to testify.
Great, thank you. Witnesses in support. Go ahead.
My name is Donald Parks from Accessible Technology Services. I actually worked with Senator Burton to pass SB 105. In the original version of the bill, we had an oversight entity in the original version, but that got changed to an advisory committee within the Department of Rehab, and we lost the state oversight function. As a disabled vet business enterprise, there was an effort to implement the bill in the first year, but state agencies just didn't know how to, they didn't understand the bill, they didn't know what to do, they just stopped doing it. So we have a decade of just ignoring the legislation for a year. We have a high level of, the state has a high level of exposure for lawsuits. The state Commission on Disability Access has a mandate to list the top 10 ADA violations. The top 5 of those top 10s are parking. Why? Because they're drive-by access. We have the same situation with websites. So we have a powder keg waiting to explode in terms of high levels of potential lawsuits from access. But the paper that I've given you in terms of making things accessible, we find out that accessible information is productive for everybody, including people without a disability. Report commissioned by Microsoft, conducted by Forrester Research, showed that 54% of people, of technology users, benefit from accessible technology. So it's more than accessibility, it's something we need to do to help California be productive.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Good morning. My name is Neil Alberton. I'm the president of Section508guru.com. I'm also the co-author of the accessibility standards that are in place with the state of California. I've been involved in accessibility with the state of California since implementation of Section 508 back in 2002. Since then, I've noticed that there was a creation of working groups to help identify the issues and remediate the issues that existed statewide. Since then, the system broke down and it's no longer effective. The websites that the senator was addressing, it is a problem, but those problems were only identifying accessibility issues on the homepage. Think of the thousands of pages that every department website has and expand that problematic issue throughout the entire website. I can guarantee you that PDF content, audio content, video content is not accessible because people do not know how to do it. This reinforces the need for an organization that would have oversight to remediate that problem and provide technical assistance that is necessary. If you look at the financial parts of it, this program is necessary because if you look at Target, for example, they paid $6 million in a settlement because their website was not accessible. Just one portion of that, with any department being sued, would finance any kind of program that would have oversight over this and prevent those kind of problems.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Thank you. Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation in California. We're also in strong support for all of the reasons we just heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Connie Arnold, longtime disability advocate and a lifetime member of Californians for Disability Rights, in support of this bill and access for persons with disabilities to the information and technology on state websites.
Thank you.
Randy Hicks, California's Disability Rights Legislative Chair. Strong support.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
We don't have a fiscal estimate at this time for the number of positions required to staff this Office of Accessible Technology created by the bill. However, Caltech's Office of Information Security is an existing entity with a comparable function. That office has 13 positions at a cost of $3.3 million annually, so it's potentially a good way to gauge what the potential costs may be.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, Senator Anderson, would you like to close?
Yes, I'd like to briefly close. We made that a law in 2002. It's been over a decade. This is a commitment to our citizens to be transparent. You know, while the cost may seem like a lot of money, in the overall spectrum, it's a minor cost as opposed to being drug into the courts and being sued for not fulfilling our promises. You know, this doesn't just help citizens with disabilities, but it helps citizens that have perhaps a slow internet connection, or they're living in conditions that are extremely loud, and they need to have the audio portion of it or the visual portion of it working. So it helps all citizens, not just citizens with disabilities. You know, many of these folks want to compete for state business, and we're shutting them out. We're saying that we want to give you preferential treatment, but we're just not going to tell you where those contracts are. We're not going to tell you how to access those contracts so that you can bid competitively for those. And finally, I'd say that this gains full access to all government services. You know, I'm proud of being a state senator. I'm proud of the work that we do, and I'm proud of this state. But if we don't provide those services that our citizens require and have a right to by hiding it behind a website that doesn't provide them access, that's just wrong. And I think that we can do better. And I'd like to ask you all for your vote today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Anderson. Without objection, we'll move this item to the suspense calendar. Thank you. Next, we have Senator Jackson. Senator Jackson, you have SB 670.
Thank you.
Also counted for suspense. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to present this just to put in some context as you consider in your deliberations the suspense file. As many of you know, I think as we all know, we're currently facing a dire shortage in available and affordable early childhood education and child care. And the numbers are stark. According to the 2010 census by the United States, we have approximately 6.1 million children under the age of 12, but according to the Department of Social Services, we have the capacity to care for approximately 1 million of those children. At the end of the day, about 17% of all children between those ages has available to them a licensed child care capacity. So as a result, when you combine that limited quantity of available licensed child care with the growing demand for it, we can see the impact it's having on access and affordability. We are now, according to Child Care Aware, the 13th least affordable state in the nation for infant and toddler care, and 17th least affordable in preschool. And with the average cost of about $12,000, it is about the same amount of money that it costs system-wide for student fees and tuition for the University of California. So think about that. The cost of childcare is equal to about the cost of student fees and tuition to attend the University of California. This bill would reestablish the employer child care tax credit and provide a very modest increase to the credit percentages for the child and dependent care credit for a period of 5 years, beginning January 2016 until January 2021. We believe that this is a necessary yet modest common sense measure that will help offset the costs of child care for many low and middle income families, provide increased access to child care for working families, and revive a policy that is supportive of California's businesses to recruit, retain, and support working families. Statistically, 31% of children will be less likely to need special needs education, and 40% of children are less likely to be held back a grade because of their access to quality early childhood education. The statistics, I could go on. There are a number of states that have demonstrated this, the reduction in the need for remediation, the reduction in children who end up in the criminal justice system. We know education is a key. We know early childhood education and care are a key, and on that basis, we're asking that you consider this measure to reestablish this credit, expand benefits, and allow employers to be part of the solution, which is why we have the support of both employers and, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have with us today the Bay Area Council being represented, and we also have support from AFSCME. And with that, I would ask for your consideration of this measure.
Thank you. Witnesses in support.
Good morning, Chairman Lara, Vice Chair Bates, and Senators. My name is Cornelius Burke, Public Policy Manager with the Bay Area Council. The Bay Area Council is pleased to support SB 670. We applaud the Senator for our leadership on this key important issue for our region. The Bay Area Council is a civic leadership organization that works to strengthen the Bay Area's economy and quality of life. Our work is led by major employers that comprise our membership. Surveys of the public and surveys of our business members consistently rank the lack of affordable child care and quality child care as a top issue for the region and the California economy. A robust child care system is imperative to California to remain economically competitive. Currently, access to affordable and quality child care has long been a challenge for working families where demand has consistently outpaced supply. This bill makes it easier for employers to recruit, retain employees, thus reducing employee training costs, absenteeism, and productivity. For these reasons and more, the Bay Area Council please support SB 670.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Department of Finance.
No file.
No file. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, Senator, would you like to close?
Yes, very briefly, this is an opportunity for business to help being part of the solution. It would encourage on-site child care for those who want to participate or helping their employees reduce their child care costs. It makes for better employees. The business community recognizes that. It meets an important need in our state. It will reduce the need for remedial care and all of the other components when children don't come to their first day of school ready to learn. So with that, I would ask for your consideration of this measure.
Thank you. Without objection, we will move this bill to suspense.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you. See Senator Wojciechowski. Please come forward.